right, so question for everyone. I think most of you are aware that Autodesk over the last few years has started making apps and things like that. Most people are aware of Sketchbook Pro. How many of you have it on an iPad or an iPhone in your hand right now? I see a few of them going up in the air, yeah. Very popular tool, and it kind of opened our eyes to, okay, let's pay a little more attention to this whole apps thing and start making more stuff for it. And so over the last couple of years, we've literally made dozens. I think this is an ideal moment for me to use the word plethora. It's not often you get to use that word, so I take it out whenever I can. We've made a plethora of apps and things, and one of the things we wanted to show today was one of those apps that we figure kind of applies most directly to you guys. So we're going to take a look at Recap, which is a photogrammetry tool which allows you to take pictures of an object and turn it into something in 3D and take it forward from there. So in order to look at that, I'd like to welcome out Craig Barr from my team, who's going to take you through that process. Good luck.
Thanks, Sean. So we're going to take a look at some of the consumer apps, as Sean mentioned here. On the top right, or top left corner, are the red app. It sounds like a lot of you are already running that on the go. Sketchbook Pro for mobile, which is an excellent tool for sketching and painting on the go. A lot of people might not be aware of the family of apps that Autodesk has. We're up to 28 apps now available. And I'm highlighting here just some of the more creative apps. So we have a bunch of apps that focus on photography. Pixlr is an Autodesk app there as well. There's a couple free games. A lot of these apps I'm mentioning here are free to grab off of various retail outlets or app stores. The little yellow robot that you see here in the bottom left-hand corner, that's our Instructables guy. So Instructables.com is this maker community, this do-it-yourself project community, where you can share ideas or actually grab ideas to make very cool do-it-yourself projects. And speaking of the maker community, the 4 apps that we have down here in the bottom right-hand corner all represent our family of Autodesk 123D apps. And they really fit into this maker idea. And the really cool thing about that is to be able to take a 3D object and actually produce it into a tactile real-world object. So in ways of like CNC milling, for example, or 3D printing. And then kind of going the opposite direction of that, on the end here with the little airplane icon is what Sean had mentioned there. Autodesk 123D Catch. And if you haven't checked this out, I definitely think you should. This is our free app that allows you to work within a mobile device. You can actually use your iPhone or your smartphone, for that matter, to capture a series of photos and actually create a fully textured model from a series of photographs of a real-world object. Well, we've advanced that research and that technology further, and we're now offering a professional solution for that. And that's actually available within the cloud. And the cloud for Autodesk is our Autodesk 360. So Autodesk 360 is a very safe and secure place to store data. It's also an excellent place to share and collaborate on projects. So for example, working on a project together and viewing documents, so to be able to share and view and comment on documents. And of course, all of this is available on your mobile devices as well. You can access this from a tablet or a smartphone to work in collaboration on a project. But Autodesk 360 is actually a very powerful suite of services, and that's where Autodesk Recap comes in here as an example. So again, our professional solution to this photo to 3D model technology. The basic requirements for this is to keep your subject of interest in the middle. You want to be able to overlap as many photographs as you can. We kind of recommend working between 5 to 10 increments. The more overlapping photographs you get, the more different angles, the more accurate reproduction of your mesh and your resulting textures there as well. So here we can see with Dominique capturing the pictures, on the left a wireframe and on the right a full textured model there. And all of this you can view online within Autodesk Recap or as well using the app on your smartphone or tablet even. So let's take a look at another way that Recap works. And this is the ability to, using the same technology in the cloud, the same process, creating very dense, very accurate, full color scan data. So this is excellent here. This is actually a technology preview of utilizing the scan data within Autodesk 3ds Max. And this allows us to work with a very dense resolution of these point clouds. So the interesting thing is with this, previously we were limited to around 2 million points in a cloud of grayscale points. Now we're working in the tens of millions. So we're easily hitting 20 million plus in full color point clouds. And this really opens up options for data acquisition as well as for the creation of models. So let's take a look at what we can do with this in an entertainment realm. So 3 basic points here. So character scanning, right? Taking a human and taking a series of photographs and actually reproducing them very accurately, fully textured, into a 3D mesh. Stage sets and extensions. This is an excellent solution for on-location filming and being able to capture your set or your location and recreate it in 3D. Again, everything I'm showing here, I'm going to be driving this along into Mudbox and Maya, but the exciting thing about this is it works with all of our products, whether you're using 3ds Max, Softimage, or Maya. And the last point here, asset creation, which we're going to take a look at briefly here, is the way to capture a real-world object and how you can translate that into a production-friendly asset. So let's take a look at that workflow. So the workflow there are capturing techniques, simple photography. We're going to take a look at how we can generate that mesh utilizing Autodesk Recap within the Autodesk Cloud, Autodesk 360. And the applications that I'm taking a look at here today are the retopology, the advanced retopology tools within Mudbox, which allow you to create this usable asset for production pipeline. As well, we're using Maya to take a look at some of the viewport advancements in there and how we can work in context with this asset, taking advantage of some of the excellent things we have going on with DX11, as well as a rendering workflow in there. And while I'm on that, again, I'm highlighting Maya and Mudbox, but you can certainly take this into any one of our applications here and do the exact same thing I'm about to show here as far as working in this context of retopology from Mudbox and continuing it on. And we're going to end in Unity in a game engine here to see how we can translate that asset into a real world. So here's our subject of interest here, the mesh that we're working with. This is actually a real statue that stands out front of the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple in Singapore. And you can see that we've captured this from a variety of different angles. We've actually gotten above to capture this as well, to get the nice accuracy of the mesh. And then we just simply upload those photos to the cloud, Autodesk 360. And I'm just diving into my directory here, the Warrior file. Now, you have the option to use all of the files or just a few of them. I'm actually selecting all of them in this case. And then once you've selected all of your images, you just simply right-click and click Create 3D Model. Simple as that. It brings you this very nicely laid out, very simple UI. Just give it a project name, select your mesh quality. We recommend you start off with draft. You can go all the way up to maximum resolution. In this case, I'm selecting standard. And then, of course, our file formats. We took a look at the scan data that we can work with. We can generate an OBJ, and of course, the most powerful format for production pipelines, FBX. We can also generate a mobile format to view on a smartphone. Then when we're done, we just hit that nifty rocket button and submit the project. And this is really interesting. You're just simply going to get an email, and it's going to tell you that your mesh is ready. Back in the cloud in Autodesk Recap is now where I can preview what the resulting mesh is. And in here, you can see the results here. This is the real mesh coming right from the photographs. It does an excellent job. Produces a real-world object just from photographs into a fully textured 3D mesh. And all I'm doing here is I'm just culling out the faces that I don't want to be able to work with this within Mudbox. But the cool thing about Recap is the ability to take this and go into a bunch of different directions. So in this example here, I'm taking advantage of the family of Autodesk 1.2 3D apps. With all of those apps now comes this nifty little Autodesk 3D print utility. And this allows you to bring a mesh in. It'll actually automatically heal it for you and prep it for 3D printing. And the really cool thing about this app, it comes with manufactured presets to 3D printers. So there's a 3D printed statue of the Warrior right out of Recap through this utility. I believe Sean has this as a fancy desk lamp now. So let's take a look at how we can move with this into our applications here. I'm just going to switch right over into Mudbox. And this is the mesh as it actually came right out of Recap. So if I put this in a wireframe and take a look, you can see it's a very dense triangulated mesh. But it's done a really nice job here. If we tumble around and take a look, that's not bad for a series of photographs generating a mesh from a real-world object there. But with photography techniques, some of the things that we can sometimes notice are some of these areas where the texture may be mixed up a bit, or unwanted holes, things that are culled out by the actual capturing technique. Not a problem. We can go in and actually heal these rather quickly. I'm just going to select some of the faces. I'm going to take smooth shading off and just get a faceted view here. And I'm just going to grab some of these triangles around here. We'll swing around to the back. Make sure we have the back selected as well. That's fine there. And I can just simply hit the delete key. And all this is going to do is cull those faces out. And if I take the border tool here in Mudbox and just swipe select the holes that I don't want in the mesh, and go underneath the mesh menu, I've left highlighted in green all of the new features here in Mudbox 2014. We have a couple tools down here that are really useful for this kind of touch-up or corrective workflow. And I'm just using patch. And in this case here, all it's going to do is simply patch up that mesh. Now, while I'm in there, we actually have another really interesting tool here, which is fair selection. And that's going to average those faces out based on the surrounding faces. So if I deselect what we're working with, I now have a nicely patched hole that's also faring nicely with the surrounding vertices and faces. Now, you notice that it's actually black in there. So we have a couple things that we can do. The reason why it's black, it doesn't have any texture coordinates. Underneath our UVs and maps, if I hit Create UVs, I can replace the existing UVs and actually create UVs in mudbox. It'll just do a really simple planar layout for you. But in this case here, I'm going to use Create Missing UVs. We'll just say, yeah, we want one tile. And what this is going to effectively do for me is give me a UV coordinate system so I can paint right on this mesh as it exists right now. Let's go back into our smooth shading. Here's a mesh that I have taken a step further here, and this is correcting some more mesh issues as well as some of the texture issues on there, and just kind of touching up some of the textures as we go along. Now with this mesh, it's a dense triangulated mesh, we want to actually be able to retopologize this and bring it into a production pipeline. Well, this is how we can work with this. Underneath our mesh menu, retopologize, I'll create a new operation. And I can guide this retopology with a series of curves, but in this case, I'm just going to use automatic retopology. But the difference here, I'm going to leave all the defaults. I'm going to use paint layers. And this is going to transfer all of the texture information into a PTEX format to lay out all the textures accurately along that. Now, I have a bunch of different retopology meshes here. Let's take a look at those. So I have a bunch of different resolutions. And this is the nice thing about this workflow. It's non-destructive. It won't affect your existing original mesh. It'll create new meshes for you. So in this case here, the nice thing about this workflow is the fact that we've actually transferred over all of that high-resolution sculpted data. Here's our now quad retopologized mesh, and it's important to note what's happened here. It's seeing the volume of the mesh, and it's actually generating the proper edge flow along those features there. And the cool thing about this, again, as I said, is it preserves all of that definition by subdividing it automatically for me. So I can now go in and sculpt this further, or I can use this for the map extraction process. So if I go underneath my UVs and maps, extract maps, you'll see here that we have the ability to create an ambient occlusion map, vector displacement, which is advanced, very accurate displacement, traditional displacement map in a grayscale, and normal maps. And as well, it's worth pointing out that an ambient occlusion, you can do a cavity map in there as well. So let's take a look at our final mesh that was retopologized and ready for taking it further down the pipeline. Here's our simple mesh right here, and this is the low-res mesh showing some of the normal maps on it. And I've painted up or sculpted up some of the veins on here to extract with that normal map. Now we can take this mesh, if I just simply select it, and we can use the one-click workflow to go into any one of our apps in here. In this case, in Maya, I can just send that over to that scene. Well, I happen to have a scene set up here that has our same mesh that we're working with. In this case here, here's our low-resolution mesh. And the interesting thing is just by using Mental Ray, I'm using the vector displacement map to take that low resolution and carry all those details to full detail at render time with Mental Ray. But another interesting thing is the Viewport 2.0 technology and how we keep advancing our viewports here. And I'm actually using this Uber shader, this DX11 Uber shader. So you can see on the top here, my viewport is in DirectX 11 mode. So nothing fancy going on in the hookup here. These are all the maps that are directly at a mudbox that I'm feeding into my shader. Normal maps, vector displacement, a cavity map, specularity, whatever. I can keep going on it. The Uber shader has infinite channels going on here that I can keep feeding in all different effects in here. So if we go down, let's cruise on down to the bottom here. Let's turn on our normal map and then start to bring in some of that detail. And the really cool thing about this shader in the viewport is the way we can work with dynamic tessellation here, or hardware tessellation, the fact that we can actually do level of detailing with it as well. So if I turn on my displacement map, what's going to happen there, if we turn on the tessellation wireframe, you'll see that as I get in very close, it's actually nice dense mesh there, and it's very smooth. It culls this out, it actually tessellates live on the fly. It's so smooth here that it actually gets tricky to show this properly in the viewport, to show a very low-res cage here, because it actually does a very nice smooth job of tessellating on the fly. So let's turn that back off, or back onto our tessellation, fully tessellated mesh. And you can see, remember here, we're still working with that low-resolution mesh, but in Maya's Viewport 2.0 with DirectX 11 and the Uber shader, we're able to see it in its full detail. Now from here, if I take this mesh, I can simply select this and send this off into Unity, Actually, one thing I should point out here, here's the original mesh there, right? So that's just our retopologized mesh, and this is the mesh here with all our tessellation, normal maps, everything else on there. So we take our mesh, our fully textured mesh, and we send it out via FBX. The beauty part about FBX and the way it works with any pipeline is that I can, if I embed my textures, it's very portable and easy to send that over. And I can actually send this right into my Unity directory and put that right in my mesh project directory. Let's jump over to a game engine here. Let's look in Unity in this case and see how we can take our asset that we've created here and bring it into the environment. So I'll just quickly drag that in. I want to just drop that into place. And if I just zoom into, let's place this a bit. Just drag and drop it into our scene. And we can see here that we now have our statue model within Unity 3D. So let's play that so we can see some of the full game engine effects on there. Now, the interesting thing about this is to keep in mind that this is a real-world object. And by simply a series of photographs, we're able to generate a usable game asset here. So a real-world object, taking a bunch of photos and translating that right into a game engine. So I would definitely advise you guys check this out. Go check out Autodesk Recap on the Autodesk Cloud and Autodesk 360. That's it for me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Craig. So if you like the way Craig talks and you'd like to see more about how he uses mudbox, he's actually going to be one of our instructors at Autodesk University this year. He'll be taking us through creature modeling in mudbox and a bunch of tips and tricks on that side of things.